Good afternoon, Carl.
Michael Kitces, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you as we are getting well underway for 2025 now?
Yeah, things are great. Like family's healthy. Yeah, just everybody's good.
Awesome. So I want to have a conversation today to challenge you on something that you said in our last episode. Uh
This
so would
is
have been this would have been 2 weeks ago on um reducing fear for clients or prospects, I guess, like when they're coming in, or like you send them the email or whatever it is, like, here's where to park, here's the directions, like, here's the expectation of how the meeting will flow, like, here's how it will end. We're like just setting clear expectations, right? Like, we won't ask or accept for any commitments from you, right? And just kind of setting that up. So, like, that, like, the hair on the back of my neck stood up a little when you said,
now. Wait a second. I don't. I this is kind of a crazy way to. So I don't even know what you're talking about.
I
So
know.
I'm a little nervous about this whole. This is going to be really fun. So I'm ready. Let's go.
So I got all I was feeling a little up in arms around, and I know this is going to be controversial for some folks who listen. So I'm excited to have this conversation. No commitments will be asked for or accepted
Yeah.
at the end of this meeting. So
Well,
first,
join the
I
list
want to
of
make
people.
sure I understand, right? So, like, Carl, I love everything you do. This is amazing. I want to become your client. Your answer is no. I won't let you commit to this. You have to go home and think about it.
Okay, so this is really funny because you can join the list that includes my wife of people who are upset about this idea. Because I used to
Fantastic. All right,
come, I
Corey and
used
I are
to,
hanging out. Can we hang out on her beautiful couch, her
yeah,
beautiful
absolutely,
blue
100%. Yeah,
couch? Awesome.
come to Utah. So, you actually came, right? Yeah, we did have you here. Didn't you come? Oh, no, to the
Yes,
office,
I was the yeah. You had the blue
the
couch in the
office,
office.
because of the
Yes,
office.
I
That's
was
right.
there on the blue couch
Yeah,
in the office. You
yeah.
taking comical pictures
So
that are
I
so
used to
funny.
come, exactly. I used to come home. And she'd be like, "How did the meeting?" In the early days, every single meeting you're like
Oh,
so excited about. And I would come home and be like, and she would know, like, "How did the meeting go?" And I'd be like, "Oh, it went great." So the new clients, I'm like, "No." He's like, what are you talking about?" Now, I didn't follow this rule 100% of the time because like sometimes people had like a time, like I'm leaving for 2 months. I need but barring that,
okay. So
I
barring
actually
like
did.
truly extreme circumstances.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like I ran a small, lifestyle focus, proud of it, small lifestyle. So we're not talking about hundreds of reps here. But I would tell people at the end, like, "Hey, this sounds great." I had plenty of people who said that. This sounds great. Like, well, how do we get started? And I would actually say more times than not, but not every time, but more times than not, I would actually say, and it's so funny that that's what you want to challenge me on. I would say, um,
Like, I'll ask you
I,
later what else you thought I was going to challenge.
yeah, I thought it was going to be something around some sort of spreadsheet or calculation or something, but like I got some number wrong or something. But I would say, gosh, that's really good news. I'm excited about it too because I really think we can make a big impact. Um, and because it's such an important decision for both of us, I'd love for you just to sleep on it, right? So here's and let me let me actually back up. At the end of the first meeting, I would say no commitment asked for or accepted. And I would say, look, the second meeting we're going to present, and we would call it something like the client solution meeting or something. Maybe
Okay,
we call it the finance.
because you had like a two meeting sales
Yeah.
process kind of thing.
That's where the one page plan started. I was like, what do we call this thing? Okay, so I
Okay.
would tell people like, hey, we're gonna give you a so back up. The goal of today's meeting is for me to clearly understand where you are today, where you want to go, and then I'm gonna put I'll get together with my team and we'll put together a plan to get you there. And whenever the word plan would come out of my mouth, I would say, hey, but don't worry. I'm not talking about a 2 inch thick book. I'll try to keep it to one page kind of executive summary. And
Yeah.
I'm going to give you that in the second meeting. So that first meeting, no commitment asked for. That's how that was handled. But it was in the second meeting. I didn't accept commitments in the second meeting either. I would say, I'd like you to take this home, review it with anybody you want. If you have a CPA, an attorney, your mother-in-law, if you have other planners you're thinking of seeing, please go see them. Like, I want you to go see them because I really don't want you to have to rethink this decision because I'm hoping you're going to be a client for a long time. But from my perspective, I think we can add a lot. I think we can be really helpful here. So why don't you take this home and no, Carl, I already know. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of that second meeting, occasionally I would say, okay, well, here's how we get started. We schedule, at least think about this. We'll schedule our third meeting, which we creatively called, I think John Bowen was the one that came up with his name, the mutual commitment meeting, right? Like really creatively titled that. And at that meeting, we'll sign documents to move, like, and we tried not to use the word, and I think John taught me this too. Like, we tried not to use the word execute, like we'll sign documents to start the process of moving forward.
Because we
So we
just don't
wouldn't,
want to bring up executions.
yeah. I mean, it just seems like a bad word. So we didn't have those documents ready at the end of the second meeting. Who would be so presumptuous? So we would say, now go away, go see all the other planners, check this out. Here's your one-page plan. Give it some thought. I'll check in with you in a day or two, and we'll schedule this mutual commitment meeting. And at that meeting, we'll have all the documents ready for us to start our relationship. Now, that's overkill. I know it's overkill. Like, I'm not even suggesting it. I'm just saying I enjoyed it, and it
So
worked.
why? I mean, it's like, what do for the client that says, Carl, this sounds amazing and you're wonderful. Like, how do we get started? I mean, just like, this is a genuine question. Like, why? Like, what are you trying to solve for by not allowing them to proceed in that moment?
Yeah, so we
Like,
should
help me
clarify
understand that.
something. We should clarify something. So the end of where this question came from you was the end of the first meeting.
Okay.
I think if I've now probably solved that question, right? Like, there's no commitment asked for or accepted at the end of the first meeting because I haven't even presented the solutions to you yet, right? So the only commitment I'm going to ask, the only commitment we have to decide on at the end of the first meeting is, should we meet again? Now, at the end of the second meeting, when I presented to you this one-page plan, again, really high level, it doesn't say, we'll buy two. It might say, let's figure out the appropriate amount of life insurance. It's not going to say buy $2 million a 20-year term, right? Like, one-page plan, we don't need to review that here. Everybody gets all fired up about. Aren't you giving it? No, it's just broad level. At the end of that meeting, if somebody's like, this looks great, I often said, go home and think about it. But if they were like, Carl, this looks great, I don't need to think about it. What's the commitment? Well, let's schedule the third meeting and we'll have all the
You're still
documents
not
ready.
actually letting them commit at this
Well,
point.
because you don't
Like,
have, like, what are you going to do? Like, call everybody in and say, okay, I mean, maybe we sign a statement of work or, the advice agreement. That's fine. But, like, I don't have ACAT transfer forms and account documents ready
well, all
or,
right, fair enough. Well, and I guess well, so I guess let me frame it to you this way, because I noticed you were doing this number of years ago where often we actually still had to bring in paper forms. I
yeah,
mean, it's a fair thing.
true.
Like, there were
This is true.
for
Things
those
have
who have been in
changed
the
in
business
15
less
years. Yep.
than 7 to 10 years, like
You can
the
press a
stack
button
of
now.
paperwork with the
Yeah.
stickies, the
Right,
sign your
right.
stickies, like
For
that
sure.
legitimately took time to prep.
For
So
sure.
I guess, like, in an e-sign world where this could be like, hey, if you're ready to go, like, our team can queue this up and the DocuSigns will be in your
Yeah.
email
Yeah.
inbox by the time you get home. I mean, would
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Let's talk
would
about
you
that.
still would you still be in this camp where I
No,
have
let's
to do
go.
the third meeting for mutual commitment, or
No, let's go back to your question. Your question is why.
like, what is this
And
solving for
so
or
if
in
we
service
get the
of?
why, I really think at this point in the relationship with the client, the why should be the client comfort. So if a client is saying, like, it would be kind of silly.
What?
It'd be kind of silly to put up another hurdle or barrier. So when I did that, I think that's kind of silly. I think that's a kind of silly idea. But if the client still got their hands on their wallets, right? Still want to, like, I want to encourage that.
Oh, no question. I mean, like, if the client's not ready, the client's not ready. I mean, this is
Yep.
not a, like, pushing the client who's a little bit reticent, like, come on, it's just an easy signature. I mean, I'm all the way at the other end of the extreme, which is
Yeah.
they're like, Carl, It's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think you say
Let's go.
sign
Like,
here.
I don't need the
I
second
think no,
meeting.
I agree.
I am
I agree.
so
I agree.
convinced that you are a brilliant
Well,
financial
wait, wait,
planner
wait. Are
after
you
the
saying this at the end of the first meeting or the second?
I'm bringing it to you in the first. Like, what's wrong?
Nah, that one I'm gonna like that one. You go like I haven't given you. We don't even know. I haven't even had time. So here's the why for that
We
one.
got to know each other. We've determined we're a good
Here's
fit,
the.
and I am confident that your solutions will be good. You don't need to prove
I'm
to
not.
me your
I.
solutions
It's
are going to be
not.
good. I'm
I.
sold.
I.
I mean,
I.
seriously, like,
Yeah. No. I'm serious too. I think there would be situations in which I would have had enough information. But remember, this is a mutual decision. Like I'm operating from the perspective of I've only got 100 seats, brother. 67 of these are full. If I'm going to give you seat number 68, I'm going to think about it. Now, that's not the
okay,
language that I'm going to use necessarily,
so that's fair.
but
So could you come out of a meeting and decide I don't even really want this second meeting because I'm actually not happy with how they showed up in the first?
100, yeah, for sure. That happened numerous times where I was like, you know what? I don't think we can add enough value that this is a good place, or this person's a last thing I want to do is we all know this. I spent
Well,
plenty of
if
time
I don't
like
want them because they're terrible in the first meeting, I get
yes,
that. But I know that in the
yeah,
first meeting. Like that's
yeah, for
this is a
sure.
graceful rejection is different than no, you want to sign. I'm just like not allowing you
Yeah, I
to do
think there's
this.
something really, I think between the first and again, I'm 100% okay with being wrong about this because there's a million ways to do this. If
Yeah,
I
well,
was
I
doing this
know this is a
again,
widely debated issue. That's why
yeah, if I was
I
doing,
wanted to
if I was
hear them.
building a firm again, I
Yeah.
would do this. At the end of the first meeting, I would say, I, great, we have everything we need to put together a, I clearly understand where you are today. I clearly understand where you want to go, or I have a good guess of where you want to go. I'm going to put together a plan. Don't worry. I'll keep it to one page. Give me 7 to 10 days. Look, even that, like I'm going to have it done tomorrow, right? Like give me 7 to 10 days. Part of this is theater. And I want you to understand, like, I want to be clear. The theater is not for me. Two things have to happen for the client to feel really good about this relationship. One, they have to feel thoroughly diagnosed. Sorry, they have to be thoroughly diagnosed. But number two, they have to feel thoroughly diagnosed. And because we're so good at pattern matching, we may have thoroughly diagnosed in 45 seconds. We may be like, this is going to be a great relationship, but the client hasn't had a chance to feel that yet. And so part of this is a little theater. So like, hey, give me 7 to 10 days. I'll have this, we'll have gone through it together. We'll put together a plan. I want to present that plan to you. And at the end of that meeting, we can decide whether to move forward. I'd still do that.
So in your process, after they decide to move forward, it just is there a like a follow on further planning process? Like now we're going even deeper to the next level, or are you essentially done with your planning process because like you cover it in the prospect phase to get them on board as
No,
a client in the first place? So it's like
lots
different
of
advisors
deeper.
do different
No,
things. So I'm just
lots of deeper. So
lots of deeper.
consider like
Okay.
let's just run through a quick example. Let's just
Okay.
say that in the first meeting, one of the things that comes up is, hey, we just went on our first, we just scheduled our first trip without the kids, and we realized we don't have life insurance, so we're going out of the country. Like that's keeping
Sure,
us up
sure.
at night.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and it could be an asset allocation thing. So in the second meeting in the plan presentation, it wouldn't say, buy 2 year. Like all I have there is, address life insurance. Like that's what it says on the
Right.
goals section of the first. It doesn't even say. I didn't spend the time to even figure out it's 2 million of 20 year term, right? It could be asset allocation. Get investments allocated to reach goals, like that level. So then once client signs on, I haven't done a lot of work. Like I've done some, but it's really a clarifying document. It's like first principles level. Once client signs on, we say, okay, great. Let's schedule the life insurance planning. Okay, here's the more information I need. Okay, turns out this is the best solution for you. Turns out we went out and got bids from 3 different places for 20-year term. This is the best one. Come on in, we'll sign it, or here's the e-sign or whatever. Hey, let's have an asset allocate. Let's have an investment plan meeting. Let us walk you through how we invest the money. Generally speaking, here's our process. Here's how it applies to you. Like, no, there's a lot more planning to do after a one-page
Okay.
plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like so if they're ready to go, why can't you just let them
After the first
say,
meeting?
yeah, Let them say
because
yes
we
and
don't.
get right into the super deep awesome planning you want to
Because I
do.
don't think I don't think we have I don't think we're at a spot where we have clear expectations of what we're really doing at the end of 90 minutes. Now, again, I'm open to being. I know there are people who are do this differently and do it better than me. Keep doing it. I'm not suggesting anybody change, but for me, going back, we used to record the meetings, looking at the notes, sitting down with a paraplanner, saying, okay, what do you see here? What do I see here? Okay, great. Let's create a one-page plan, which to me is just a statement of financial purpose, a set of stated goals ordered in riskiness or level of
Sure.
importance, right? Next 90 days action. Here's the 2 or 3 things we want to do next. Here's how much it might cost to work with us. That's all that is. It's almost like one page plan is not even the right term for it. It's a clarifying document, but I love the term one page plan. So we present that. That gives us like, are we on the same page in terms of what I heard last time, what you heard? Are expectations clear? That's all we're doing with that. I don't think we haven't had we all know situations. This is why lawyers are around where people heard different things.
Sure.
So this is just an opportunity to clarify. And again, I'm not like it's like I had 78 clients when I sold the business. You know what I mean? It's exactly what I'd build again. So every one of them, I wanted to like, are we on? I had
Right. So
too
you
many.
weren't trying to have hundreds and hundreds of clients where you're filling the
Like, I want to
volume.
make
Like
sure
you
these
wanted
are,
to be selective.
yeah. And I made the mistake, which many of the people listening will relate to, of chasing somebody for 2 or 3 years only to spend a decade regretting that I got them as a client. You
Uh-huh.
know, so, and one of them was my biggest client ever that I had to fire, and it was took 2 years off my life. So I do think there's something nice about saying, hey, are we on the same page? Okay, cool. Can we take 2 meetings to do that? You know what I mean? Like now at the end of the second meeting, that idea of making them go show people, I get it. That's probably a little overkill. But at the end of the first meeting, I still feel pretty good about it.
Interesting.
Are
So
you okay with that? Are you gonna at least be okay?
I'm struggling. So
That's fine. That's fine.
so I get the idea that I've got limited seats on the bus and I really really want to make sure this is a good fit client because look, it's so much easier to just not take them as a client than it is to take them and have an oh blank moment later when you realize that you need to fire them and separate this relationship, right? Just it's stressful to part and separate from clients when we initiated and let them go. So for someone who's in a position of I'm trying to be extremely selective about the clients that I work with, and I'm not sure that it's the right client for me after the first meeting, I get it because that's literally my decision. Do I want to take this person on as a client? And if my screening filter like threshold is that high, and I just really can't make the determination in a meeting, then take 2 meetings. Because if that's what you need for you to feel good about taking this client into your limited roster, like I get that. Like that's it's for me, not the clients. But I don't mean that in a bad way. Like if I'm trying to
Sure,
protect
sure.
my capacity and my ability to serve my clients well, and that's what I need to be the best me as a financial advisor for the clients that I allow onto the bus. Like that, I get that. That resonates for me. The like if that's your client selectivity circumstance. I think my challenge to this, not trying to challenge you, just like I feel
I
a
know, I
challenge.
love it. Please. I
Uh
love challenge.
like you most people don't come see us on a whim.
It's true.
They
True.
come see us because they're in pain, bad stuff's going on, because you got to come to us and we cost a lot of fees and you have to talk about money things that no one talks
Right.
about. Like we're not an easy meeting and engagement and outreach. And heaven forbid they have to do this with multiple different advisors at once and go through the torture of talking about their situation to multiple strangers just to find one that they feel like they can trust. This is really hard for most prospects to do. And if someone like manages to build up all the courage to finally deal with that like financial stuff that they've been putting off for 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 10 years, and they finally made it to my office and they finally had a good meeting and they finally said like I'm ready to do it. Like this is my moment. I'm going to do it. And you're like, "Oh, no, no, no. Why don't you go hang out for a while and sit on it and think about it?" Like
Right.
it's the end like if you're trying to help someone go through behavior change, it's like the worst possible way to help them actually change their behavior. Like they spent so much effort trying to build up to get to the point where they're ready to change their habit. And like, yeah, but why don't you stay in your current habits a little bit longer and then we'll revisit this? Like
Get it. Hey, Michael,
it
do you have
takes.
more? Get it. I want you to get it all out. Get it all out.
I mean, it takes it. I mean, again, the purest sense, like it takes their choice and agency away to
Yeah.
say how they want to engage that's meaningful for them and saying, no, 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 you have to go through my process my way if you want to have the privilege of being my client, even if you so find me credible and trustworthy after the first meeting and so believe my process is going to be great that you are ready to engage right now because you trust, because Carl is such a fantastic communicator that I'm sold after the first meeting and I'm not allowed to do it because I have to go through your process instead of what I need as a client. Like that's what I start processing. Now, if you're doing that because you literally your process is I'm trying to figure out whether you're a client I want to let onto my scarce seats of the bus, I actually get it there. Like there really is a yes, as the planner,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a part of this process that I need for me to make sure this is the right mutual fit. Not all of us have that level of screening criteria, but some of us do. It's like, and
Yeah.
I pound the drum a lot about being selective about who you take as a client. So I'm not going to fault anyone for
Yeah.
having selective criteria, even to the point that you need two meetings if that's really why you need it. But to me, just you're taking away someone's agency at the exact moment that they were finally ready to deal with what are usually really hard money things for most people to deal with.
Yeah.
And to me, just like it feels really negatively disempowering to a client to say, you can't actually choose whether to hire me and trust me, even though you already said you trust me and you're ready to hire me.
Yeah.
It's like really strong. Like I really, that's
Yeah.
why
It's I know. I
hair
know.
went
I
up on the
love
back of
this.
my neck when you
I
said
know.
it
I
in
love
our
this.
last one. Like, I
It,
mean, even down
it's,
to as you said, part of this is theater for them, right? Because we're trying to establish the relationship and trust. Which again, like
yeah.
I
Yeah.
respect the theater of it, but like you already won the trust game. Like
Yeah. No, no.
you got
I
them
like,
with the
I think
theater
this
of the
is smart.
first meeting.
No, this is smart. So one thing that's maybe one thing I think is clear to me is that I need to try one more time to communicate the benefit to the client. Let me try one more time
Okay.
because what you're raising is, look, super smart and really thoughtful. So let's make sure we understand where we're at. So client comes in for first meeting. They overcome all that icky stuff we talked about,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like you do this beautiful first meeting where you don't do the all the icky stuff that you may have been taught to do. Like this is the amazing thing. At the
Yes.
end of the meeting, you're pretty clear. You're like, wow, this in your mind, you're thinking, wow, I really enjoy these people. They're great people. The problem they have looks like something I could solve, even in what I've heard so far. They're thinking, wow, I really like this advisor. They've asked really good questions. I really think they could help. And so, what I'm suggesting at that spot is maybe the solution here, let me just try this on, is to say, hey, I've really enjoyed our first meeting today. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, what brought you in. And it's clear to me you've made some really good decisions with money, and I think we can be really helpful. What we do here, now it's just a function of making small tweaks around the edges and then doing it for a couple decades. And it's like
Yeah.
exactly what we do. I think I'd really enjoy. I used to say this a lot in the second or third meeting, but I could see you saying it in the first meeting. I think I'd really enjoy working with you, and I think we could really be helpful. So what if we did this? I'll put together a plan so that we can make sure we're on the same page. Like let's move forward. I'll put together a plan to make sure we're on the same page, and I'll have that ready in 3 to 5 days. Can you come back in 3 to 5 days and let's review that together to make sure we're on the same page? And I'll have all the documents ready. If at the end of that review we still feel the way we feel right now, I'll have all the documents ready and we'll get started. Let's get started knocking these problems off. Like, how does that feel?
That feels a little better. That feels a little better. Oh,
Good.
look, just like
Okay.
I like read
Yeah.
like I have
Yeah. Yeah.
so there's two things to me that jump around out around that. Like one is like I'm putting myself in client shoes. I still feel like we have forward momentum. I
Yep.
want to move forward. We have
Yep.
forward
Like
momentum.
it.
Like we're
Like,
getting to the next step. You're going to present a
yeah.
thing. We're going to sign paperwork. Like, as far as I'm concerned, we're now in the client process, which starts with
Okay.
a meeting
Like
where we
it.
sign
Like it.
paperwork and you tell me some things. Like,
Yep.
I feel the forward momentum, and B, just like, I feel like I'm in a process. You're not telling me, like, you think you want to work with me, but you're probably wrong, and
See,
you should go
this
think
is,
about it
can I
because
stop you? Let me
apparently
stop
you're
you.
like
Let
an
me stop.
impulsive person who can't make good
Right.
decisions.
Let me, wait.
Okay.
Because that's where I must have miscommunicated. And I want to make sure this is clear.
Okay.
That's where I must have miscommunicated. I'm not suggesting you misunderstood. I'm suggesting I must have miscommunicated. If I communicated that I would say like, well, sounds like you really want to work with me, but you know what? You have to go home and think about it.
Well, because there are a lot of advisors that do this and say this
Okay.
like that.
If I
So
and
maybe
that's
I
fine.
over
Like if they
projected
no,
because
no,
I
if
know a lot of folks
they
that
want,
do.
you know what, and those I'm sure there are people who've built really successful businesses doing things that way, and who am I to tell them they don't know what they're doing? I want to make sure it's clear. I didn't mean to communicate that. What I meant to communicate was closer to this where we are now, which is
Okay.
like, hey, this feels really good. I think we could be really valuable in your life. Like, you've done a lot of great work, and we could be really helpful. Let's do this. You know, give me some time to huddle with my team, put together this plan, and think of it as a clarifying document. We call it a one-page plan. Let's come back and review it. And if we're still on the same page at the end of that meeting, we'll have all the documents ready to exit. Like I can see that. That's closer to where I wanted to communicate. If it
Okay.
came across as if I was folding my arms in a smug way and saying, "Go home and think about it, young lad," that's not what I meant.
Well, I okay. That does
How's that?
help because I again, I mean, I know a lot of advisors that have some version of that, right? Because we've all been hard sold in our own lives in various ways. It's pretty hard to dodge it in like modern society. And so I do feel like there's been this almost counter trend reaction of, well, I want to be so blatantly clear that I'm not one of those pushy people that I'm going to like
Mm-hmm.
proudly tell you you're not even allowed. Like, I'm so not a salesman. You are barred from signing up for me at the meeting, which is why I got thrown when you said, even in your like pre-meeting expectations document, no
Mm-hmm.
commitments will be asked for or accepted.
I still stand by that, but yeah, I can see how that needs to be softened, right? Like I could see how that could be worded better.
Because I struggle with, to me, there's a difference between, look, I've got a process that's multi-meeting. Cool. I mean, most of us have multi-meeting processes. I'm not talking to you in the first half of the meeting and delivering your financial plan the second half of the meeting. It's like we all have multi-meeting processes. Some of us at least have varying levels of how much we screen and filter clients. And so I've got nothing negative to the idea of, hey, if I, as the advisor, need a second meeting to make sure this is really a good fit because I'd rather get clear up front than take you on and have to let you go later because I realize I made a mistake. Uh sure. I mean, I think we need to admit, like, then I'm doing that for me. I'm not doing that for the client. I'm doing that for me because I need to be comfortable this is a mutually beneficial relationship. But there are two parties to this relationship. So if that's what I need, I'm allowed to take that time as much as my client is entitled to take time if they don't want to decide after the first meeting and have a hard sell. Uh, but I really struggle when it gets down to, so I'm basically going to tell the client that they're not permitted to make grown-up decisions on the spot because I'd so rather appear that I'm the anti-salesman than allow them just like the agency to
You,
make a
hey,
decision. Maybe
you
I'm
know
over
me.
projecting this, but like
Yeah, you know me well enough to know that that is definitely not what I was communicating. So there's a line here that I want to be really clear about. One is I do think that we're not after one meeting, we're without some clarifying document. We want to make sure we're on the same page in terms of what we're agreeing about. Like, have we clarified the problem right? I think that's important. I think the theater of allowing the client to know this involves a little bit of work is important. I'll stand by that. Now, the level of that, I'm not trying to play games here. We don't play games with people's lives, and we don't, and all of this should be in the service of the client. If it crosses the line and becomes in service of my ego or in service of my like
well, look,
smugness,
in service of my desire to clearly filter whether this person is a good fit, like to me that's a very valid in
Agreed.
service of myself
And I
moment,
also
like if
think
that's really what's going on.
by the way, I think that's also in service in a very important way. That's in service of the client.
Yes, taking them on, starting to work, and saying like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I'm sorry, this isn't
totally.
working. Let's fire you in six
So,
months. It's not good."
but the other approach we've already, ad nauseum, we've gotten to the point where a client really wants to move forward. We think it's a great relationship. Now, all I'm what I think the process was designed to do, the way engaged in it, if I didn't communicate clearly, totally understand. But the way I engaged in it is, hey, let's make sure we're on the same page. Here's what I heard in the first meeting. Did I get this right? Were these really your goals? Is this really your concerns? Did I get this right? Because we can help with these things. Oh yeah, you got them right. Or, you know what, Carl? Actually, no, we totally missed this thing. I have a bunch of stock options. Oh, I don't know anything about stock options. Let me get you some help. Like that's all I'm saying. So I think the wording can become more clear of like, I still stand by like, hey, at the end of this first meeting, here's maybe a way you could word it. I worded it exactly the way I said. At the end of this first meeting, there'll be no commitment asked for or accepted. But you could word it, hey, at the end of this meeting, the only commitment we're going to make is whether we should have a second meeting to decide to work together.
Sure. And if someone gets the first meeting is like, I don't even need the second one. Look,
Great.
like I already
Or
said, I trust
I don't
you.
want it.
I value what you do. I believe your process is going to be effective. So I'm literally just ready to get started. Can we just move forward? Because I'm ready to make a mental commitment and I need to check this off my mental, box because I got other things to do in my life besides come back for your second meeting that I didn't want to have that apparently I still have to go.
But like, look, I don't know. We're talking about the end of 90 minutes. Like at the end of 90 minutes, all I have is I've gathered information. I haven't had a chance to put together, like, here's what I think we're
I
agreeing
know.
to.
I think you're going to be so good at it. I'll pay you for that. I'm
Amazing.
ready to pay you
Amazing.
now.
So here, let's do this. Let's schedule our second meeting. And in that second meeting, I'll have a clarifying document there. We call it a one-page plan. And if we're still on the same page at the end of that, it'll take us about 20 minutes. We'll have all the documents ready to get started. How does that sound? We'll be ready in 3 days.
Cool. That works.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like
Love
that.
that.
That works. That
Love
works.
that.
It's like I'm moving forward in the process, and again, I feel like I need to clarify as well. Like I'm assuming in all of this, like we're not pushing them, we're not hard closing, we're not even
No, no,
soft
no, no. We've been clear
closing.
about
Like to
that.
me, I mean,
Yeah.
just if that's your thing, that's one thing. But like I'm talking about the scenario here of you're not trying to solve them at the end of the meeting. If your default is that you don't ask for a commitment, you let them go home and sleep on it. Like if that's your thing, cool. I'm just talking about the scenario where you don't ask for a commitment and they say like I'm ready to get going, which is why it was the I don't have any problem with the no commitments will be asked for part. I get stuck on the or accepted.
Accepted. Fair enough.
Or accepted.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair
I'll
enough.
be I'll be curious to see what kind of feedback we get. 'Cause I know advisors are out there on both sides of this. So questions at kitces.com, hello at behaviorgap.com if you want to sound off to us on where you are on this spectrum of do you let the client if you're a think it over I don't ask for a commitment person advisor, do you let them move forward if they want to, or do you require them to go home and think it over, even if they were ready, even if they said they were ready?
Perfect, Michael. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Carl.
Okay, cheers.